They let me pick. Did I ever tell you that? Choose whichever Spartan I wanted. You know me. I did my research, watched as you became the soldier we needed you to be. Like the others, you were strong and swift and brave. A natural leader. But you had something they didn't. Something no one saw but me. Can you guess? Luck.
I don't think there will ever be a video game that has impacted me more than the Halo series. And I'm specifically talking about the Bungie Halos, but feel free to incorporate Halo 4 here as well. This series was my childhood. I formed friendships because of this game. A large part of my middle and high school life was Halo. And I couldn't have gone on and on about the memories that I formed in the multiplayer, but it's not just the multiplayer for me, it's the story. And for this episode of my top 10 video game stories of all time, it only feels right that Halo makes the top 5 for me. And if we're talking purely from nostalgia's sake, this could easily be number 1. Now you may be wondering, what happened to episode 5? That's Metal Gear Solid, and I don't exactly have B-roll for that, so we're gonna save that video until the Master Collection comes out, okay? So we'll skip Metal Gear Solid for now, and let's talk about Halo. They let me pick. Did I ever tell you that? That might be one of my favorite openings to any game ever, especially when you know the context behind that statement, lore-wise, you know? And I was going to make a script for this video, but Halo is special to me, and I think this has to come off the cuff. So if I stutter or misspeak, please forgive me. This one has to come from the heart, because like I said, and like how I started this video off, Halo is special to me. It's simple. It's one of the most simple storylines on this entire list. Unless you want to get into expanded universe stuff, which I also dipped my toe into, and actually read for school projects. I love Halo. That is something that has to get across. Its world, its characters, its moments of hype and levity, its comedic relief, Sergeant Johnson, the grunts, the extra dialogue you can find, little musical cues you can find by finding secrets in the overworld that just bring it all together, the environmental design, the storytelling to the gameplay, the characterization, the cutscenes. Oh my god, those Halo 2 anniversary cutscenes. Oh! Halo 3, the speeches, those hype moments, the moments of betrayal, and the dynamics between the characters. Master Chief stands as a testament to the true capabilities of a silent protagonist, or a largely silent protagonist, a self-insert protagonist, one who stands to exist solely so the player can insert themselves into the narrative, and they do it dang near perfectly with Master Chief. Because if I ever do a top 10 video game characters of all time, you can bet he's probably going to slide in number 1. He's fun to play with, he's cool, great lines, he's keep it simple stupid, epitomized in a character. And the reason I like Halo 4 so much is for a very similar reason Actman said before, that they took the time in the games to make you care about Master Chief, so that eventually you'll learn to care about John. And when they do that storyline later on, because the one part of Halo's storyline that I think 343 did very well, it's the man versus machine. It's hard to properly convey within just one video all the love and adoration that I hold for this series, but I'm going to try my damn best. Let's start in release order. Combat Evolved. Why is Combat Evolved so good? It focuses on the gameplay. It's a proof of concept, right? You're Master Chief. There's a naked AI companion. We know the target demographic for this game. We all know it. Go fight some aliens. Oh, and there's the Flood. That moment, by the way, was amazing as well. The way they introduced the Flood in this horror theme. That's one of the aspects of Halo 1 and 2 that I miss so much personally, was those horror survival elements, where you felt like you were being overwhelmed by the Flood, who could utilize the corpses of the dead to sustain their rancor, came at you mercilessly, without a seemingly end point. They just came at you, and they provided a different gameplay loop than the Covenant, because they were able to tell and further the thematic, themes of the Flood through the gameplay, and it made you care all the more. the environmental storytelling, on the mission keys when you saw the corpses packed into the corner by the flood, when you viewed the helmet data from Private Jenkins, showing the flood's first on-screen debut, having a character like Sergeant Johnson to provide a sense of comedic relief that is pivotal and needed in stories like this. To rally the troops and make you care about the UNSC, to make you care about these side characters, because they are better because of Sergeant Johnson's appearance, because of his presence, because his comedy, his banter, his dialogue, his character makes everyone around him better off. And that is the power of a character like Sergeant Johnson. And that's what makes his death at the end of Halo 3 so powerful. Because you know that from here on out, Halo's always going to have that missing presence. Because nobody can replace Sergeant freaking Johnson. No one can. The characterization of Master Chief and Cortana, one of my favorite dynamics in all of gaming, is those two interacting with each other. Chief being by the books, by the numbers, and almost her, the AI companion, being the most human one. Bantering, roasting, but always being there to guide Chief onto the correct course. When he has a moment of doubt, Cortana comes in as reassurance. And I think that transitions perfectly into the story of Halo 4, with the whole man versus machine elements. Because they took the time in the original Halos to showcase and kind of solidify those two characters' roles, where Master Chief is this self-insert protagonist by design, but that makes him feel like a machine. And her, the actual machine, the AI companion, feels more human because her interactions, her dialogue, her mannerisms, her model, they all look human. And we never see Chief without his helmet on. Without his helmet, sorry. And it furthers that, because we never see his human face. We only ever see the metal. But for her, we see the facial expressions. We see the hair. We see the human body. And Halo Combat Evolved's story is very simplistic on the surface, but it serves as an excellent jumping off point for the rest of the series to thrive, to flourish, to grow, to expand on. Because they planted the seeds in Combat Evolved, and those seeds would sprout and blossom into something beautiful with Halo 2. Because Halo 2, in my opinion, is one of the best storylines ever put to the video game media. The dual perspective between Master Chief and Arbiter is done so freaking perfectly well that it makes Halo 5 look worse in comparison, because there was already a proof of concept here with Halo 2. We know it can work, we know it can be special, and we know the storyline can be bolstered and enhanced because of its conclusion. They made Arbiter seem like a badass. He was a great foil for Master Chief. And there were so many little details about Halo that I've always had in the back of my mind, but I was never able to really put into words and say, this is why it's so good. And I think Actman and Hidden Xperia did amazing jobs on this. You see the dual perspective at the beginning of the game as the Arbiter suffers the consequences of his failures in Combat Evolved, while Master Chief is being rewarded and accoladed. You see that. You see this storyline progress as Master Chief does what he always tries to do and be that last stand, that beacon of hope, that bastion for humanity, while the Arbiter has this inner crisis, this turmoil that rages within him as everything he thought he knew and loved, everything he believed that he had faith in, is upended and rooted out and dragged out into the light and put to the sword in front of him. Every core belief and dream and aspiration that he has held for his entirety of his stint in the Covenant, upended, proven to him to be a lie, and then he must choose. Do your duty or do your morality? Do the moral thing. Do you live a lie or do you live the truth? Because living the truth can often come with sacrifice, and it can come with pain and hardship. Arbiter saw this when all the brutes and all the prophets and the entirety of the Covenant backstabbed the elites. And as he had to wade through all the bodies, fighting both Covenant and Flood, trying desperately to no longer live a lie, and to pull his friends, his comrades, who were still in the midst of that fog, that lie, pull them out of it. And you can see the storyline progress as some people are unable to do that or unwilling to not live a lie. They would rather live in ignorance or lie and be shielded from the truth just because their lie is more comforting, because it has become routine for them. There is such a great dissection of religion in Halo 2. And a lot of the elements of the Halo 2 storyline that I absolutely love and cherish come as a direct result of us being able to play as the Arbiter. Him trying to slowly regain his honor, learning the truth, and then upending everything he held sacred to fight for what he believed to be right. All the while, with Chief, we had a bunch of badass lines in delivery. Sergeant Johnson, every line of dialogue in Halo 2, in my opinion, is quotable. It has the best dialogue in-game I've ever seen from any game. There's no close competition. No game has dialogue as consistently well written as Halo 2, and I don't think it's even remotely close. Every line of dialogue, and this is not an exaggeration, feels like narrative perfection. There was passion and imagination behind every scene and every line of dialogue in this game, and they're able to convey exposition in interesting ways while still being fun and being Halo. Sergeant Johnson meeting Arbiter for the first time, how you doing? Oh my god, I'm just saying. They build up for these big climactic moments that are supposed to feel very effective and land, and they always do. And that's the beauty of Halo 2. Everything they build up to, everything they work for, everything they put effort in pays off. And the new blur cutscenes just add an extra level of brilliance to everything. As you see even more facial expression, as you see more detail, and just makes these scenes gorgeous. And we get the Halo 3. No, not even that. Then we beat Tartarus in that final fight with Arbiter teaming up with Sergeant Johnson in a freaking Scarab. If there's one thing Halo does better than anyone else, it's understanding that sometimes rule of cool is a rule for a reason. Think of the entirety of the last mission. You go from freaking Wraiths to Banshees to Sergeant Johnson in a Scarab to blowing a hole in a freaking temple door to going 1v1 against Tartarus himself as Sergeant Johnson grabs a beam rifle to shoot from the rafters. Okay, it's not exactly 1v1, but you know what I mean. It's so cool. All the narrative themes come to a head here, and they battle off. What is going to win out in the end? Arbiter's truth or Tartarus's lie? A man who was exposed to the truth and was willing to go against everything he used to be to live his truth, or someone who was exposed to that truth and rejected it, choosing instead to live a lie and a delusion. And Arbiter won out in the end. And sure, the ending of Halo 2 by itself may be a bit of a flop, because it's a massive cliffhanger. Gotta give the Covenant back their bomb. Oh, sir, finishing this fight. Boom! And then, when you have Halo 3, and you go from Halo 2 to Halo 3, it's the perfect segue. Oh my god. They let me pick. Did I ever tell you that? What a great way to start off Halo 3. After Chief and Cortana had to separate themselves for the sanctity of the mission. Now we have two goals for Halo 3. Defeat the Covenant, 3 actually, defeat the Flood, and get Cortana back. And you can tell, you can feel, because they look at, you see it. You see the emotional turmoil that Master Chief goes through in Cortana's absence. Those moments and scenes that were freaking annoying, let's be honest, where the entire game slows down to a narrative crawl as Cortana, like, flops around on your screen for a bit and talks to you. When you think about it, though, it's Chief. He's going through visions. You can tell how much the loss of Cortana is affecting him, because they come and happen sporadically. He blames himself. It's the beginning of a deep dive into the inner psyche of Master Chief as a character, and it begins to humanize him as he starts to go against orders, because he now has a desire unique to him that's not just following orders. He may try and convince the higher-ups to go along with his plan, which he does, but he knows he wants to go free Cortana. That is his priority number one. But he's still stuck between his own desires and his duty. And then Chief and Arbiter teaming up for Halo 3? Oh my god! Were it so easy. I'm telling you, the dialogue in this series is goated. There's no other game with dialogue as quotable as Halo, in my opinion. There's none that I've played. No dialogue as consistently memorable and impactful as Halo's. And you progress through most of Halo 3, and I think Halo 3 is a bit of a middle ground between Combat Evolved and Halo 2 in terms of having narrative and storyline. It's not as much in Halo 3 as in Halo 2, but it's more than Halo Combat Evolved. And a lot of the story is front-loaded or back-loaded, and you go and rescue Cortana. Freaking after you team up with the Flood, by the way. Again, rule of cool. Why would Chief and Arbiter team up with the Flood? Why not? They both want to get the profit, why not? Just do it for a section. It's freaking cool. It adds to the immersion. It showcases the changing of sides and how sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but only for a moment. And then in Halo 3, you go find Cortana. And you can tell throughout the most of the mission of Cortana, all the things that the Hive Mind, the Grave Mind, was doing to Cortana. He was torturing her, trying to extract information as much as he could. Because that's the thing with the Flood that separates them from the pack, in my opinion, of all of these like biological horrors that so many other sci-fi games and series try and do. The Flood are hyper-intelligent, at least the Grave Minds are. And if you read the expanded lore, you get a bit of a backstory about just how much Cortana's been going through here. She was right on the brink of collapse, of emotionally just falling apart, and then Chief saves her. It's tropey, it's generic, sure, but freaking hell, man, it works here. And then the finale. 343 Guilty Spark betraying us, killing Sergeant Johnson. Send me out with a bang. And we do just that. And then the final Warthog run, and when you look at the terminals and you realize that it's mendicant bias, or at least a fragment of him, trying to right the wrongs of his past by clearing us a path to the Forward Unto Dawn, it just adds an emotional weight to that storyline. And how does Bungie decide to end the series up? They could have followed up Halo 3, but Halo 3's ending was perfect. They put Master Chief on ice, finally reunited with Cortana, away from war and away from the war effort, able to just finally relax and sleep and get some rest. Wake me when you need me. How does Bungie want to go out? They could follow it up. One last oorah with Master Chief. But as the world is able to move on from having and needing Master Chief to safeguard it, and as the world and universe moves on from the Human Covenant War, Chief can sleep. Let's do a prequel. See how it all began. Back on Reach. And Chief's not in it. Outside of Halo Wars and ODST, there was never a mainline entry that didn't have Chief as a playable character. Sure, there's like one out-of-bounds glitch you could do in like theater mode to see Master Chief in the Pillar of Autumn, but you played as Noble Six, this new guy, this freaking literal self-insert, who even used your multiplayer spot and character model. On Reach, you knew what had to happen. You read the fall of Reach. And yes, it retconned a little bit. You knew that Reach had to fall. They even showed you at the very beginning with your helmet, burned on the ground. You knew how the story had to end. Why go out this way? Well, was there any other way to go out? The work of Halo 1, 2, and 3 in succession is sacred in my opinion. But I think Halo Reach makes it all the better because you feel and understand the brutality of the Covenant and how unrelenting they can feel as a force. And just how pivotal the actions of Master Chief and Arbiter were in Halo 2 and 3 because of what happens in Reach. And that not every story has a happy ending. But as the famous saying goes, happy endings are kind of determined upon where you end the story. Because stories, they never really end. They just move on. And throughout Reach, you grow to care about Noble Team. I love them. They're great. Not every character needs to have like 5 hours of backstory or emotional development or need to cry on screen. They don't need to do that. Because Noble Team was great. And then you slowly start to watch them sacrifice and die one after the other. It all culminates in getting Cortana to the Pillar of Autumn so that Halo 1, 2, and 3 can happen. And the final missions are a mad dash against wave and wave of Covenant through some of the best skyboxes I've ever seen. Get Cortana to the Pillar of Autumn so that the original trilogy can happen and the last of Noble Team die, and you're left by yourself as Noble Six watching the Pillar of Autumn leave so that Halo 1, 2, and 3 can happen, so that story can continue, can run its course, and be as great as it was. And in a way, Halo Reach feels like a remembrance of Halo, of what it all was, what it stood for, how good it was. The themes and aspects that it covered, the story that it involved, the characters. It was an emotional remembrance of all that came before in our time, all that was to be in Halo's lore. And then we play the final mission, Lone Wolf, and the mission objective is to survive, and eventually you die. Reach is glassed, and life is born again. And Noble Six dies not knowing what would happen, but that the work we did in Reach enabled 1, 2, and 3 to happen. And when you put down the controller after Halo Reach ends and the credits roll, and you go back to the main menu, it feels like everything came full circle. Because you know what comes next. And that makes the ending of Reach work. And that's what makes prequels work sometimes, is when the story of the prequel is able to bolster the narrative of the originals, make them better, more engrossing, more endearing, raise the stakes, and showcase what you managed to defeat, what you managed to overcome. I think Reach was the perfect send-off that they could ever have done for Halo, and I'm glad that it wasn't a sequel. I think the story of Reach needed to be told in this manner. And sure, there's some contradictions with the book, The Fall of Reach, and I love both, but I'm glad Reach exists exactly as it does, because that game was special, and was the perfect send-off to one of my favorite video game stories ever told, the Bungie Era of Halo. It was fun, it was bombastic, it was high octane, amazing dialogue, incredible characterization, great themes that were explored, and brilliant use of the silent self-insert protagonist that few other games are able to nail as well as Halo did. That's what makes Halo special to me, why it's one of my favorite video game stories ever told, and why it resonated so much with me all those years ago, and why it still does every time I play it again. Halo is special to me. It'll always be special. Nothing that comes afterwards can ever compromise or take away this narrative. I can just treat what came later as fanfic, because this story, it's something uniquely, well, awesome. And I think I'll call it there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in, my pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, go play some video games if you can, and as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye bye everybody, till we meet again.
It didn't take long for Reach to fall. Our enemy was ruthless, efficient, but they weren't nearly fast enough. For you had already passed the torch, and because of you, we found Halo, unlocked its secrets, shattered our enemy's resolve. Our victory, your victory, was so close. I wish you could have lived to see it. But you belong to Reach. Your body, your armor, all burned and turned to glass. Everything. Except your courage. That you gave to us. And with it, we can rebuild.